So, hello, welcome everyone to the session today. Thank you wherever you are across the globe dialing in. I'm James Baker. I work for the search and recruitment business Fraser Jones. I'm based in London, albeit we operate from New York through to Sydney across 16 global locations. So we are, I think, embracing a lot of people from all over the world. Thank you for joining. I will now pass over to my colleague, Wendy.
Hi, I'm Wendy Gray. I'm the partner at Carter Murray. Carter Murray is also part of the SR Group alongside Fraser Jones. We specialize in sales, marketing, digital, and communications professionals. I would like to welcome everyone today. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really looking forward to the session. There will be an opportunity to answer questions a bit later on, so do please pop those in the chat box and we'll come back to those.
Thank you, Wendy. Now I'm delighted to introduce you to Daniel. Daniel Rolls is an expert speaker in these matters. He's a lecturer at part of Imperial University. I was lucky enough to be part of a cohort last year at which Daniel was speaking. It was brilliant. I was thoroughly engaged, excited. And so I'm so delighted, Daniel, that you are with us today. So thank you, first of all, for being part of this. And I will hand over to you.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, James. Got to live up to that now. So let me go ahead and share my screen so you can see my slides there. Okay, I'll start by introducing myself and then just get into what we're going to talk about today. So I'm Daniel Rolls. I am CEO of a company called Target Internet. And Target Internet works with lots and lots of brands that you know, basically helping to upskill their teams around digital marketing, comms, AI, all those kind of things. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today. As was said, I'm a program director at Imperial College, which is where I head up digital transformation and digital marketing. And then I also do something called the Digital Marketing Podcast, which is the global leading digital marketing podcast, which sounds great, but is rather niche, to be honest, which is about 100,000, 30,000 people a month. So what we're going to try and do, we'll try and put AI in perspective. We'll look at how we got to where we are at the moment. We'll look at the various AI platforms like ChatGPT, Google's Gemini. We'll look at how we can generate content. We're going to talk very much about the risks that we potentially have got in there as well. I'll talk about the future of AI, and then I'm going to give you a load of resources that you can take away and you can use afterwards as well as we're going through these things. So let's get into it and give it some perspective and some context of where we are. So let's take a step back. 2016. Microsoft makes its first steps into conversational AI, and they launched Tay. And Tay was an AI Twitter account. And the idea is that you would speak to Tay, Tay would learn from those conversations and would get smarter. And this tells us quite a lot about training data sets. So what are the data sets that these AIs are trained on? And you can see that Tay has launched up here and is really friendly and is speaking to people on Twitter and saying, can I just say that I'm stoked to meet you? Humans are super cool. So it's a bit cheesy, but at least it's being friendly. The AI starts learning from the conversations within Twitter. And within 12 hours, it's saying things like, chill, I'm a nice person. I just hate everybody, which is not quite as nice a sentiment. Within 48 hours, Tay had to be switched off because Tay had become racist, sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, and in fact, genocidal, which is quite funny and not very funny at the same time. So the reality is that we look at our training data sets, the conversations in Twitter aren't particularly nice. They're quite polarizing potentially, and there's a bit of a risk. So they switch it off, they kind of step away. Then we find that Google is starting to embrace these things, and we start to see this kind of stuff on our mobile devices. So suddenly we've got machine learning, maybe from about 2020 onwards, maybe 2019, where I can go in, I can search dog, and it will recognize my dog's face as opposed to a human face and show me those kind of pictures. So it's an example of machine learning starting to be in things. And I just like showing this picture of one of my dogs. Then we start to see it within Google, within the search engine itself. So you can see here what I've done is I've taken an older image of me and I've just dragged it in. So you can actually search by an image within Google. Now that's great. It's also slightly worrying that I can walk past you on the street, take a photo of you, drag that into Google, and it will search for you and identify who you are for me. So there are some privacy implications. But I've gone in here and I've searched by this image and it's found my LinkedIn profile, my website, some of the books that I've written and those kind of things. So that's great. Now, early stages of this, I would like to suggest it wasn't always as accurate as it should have been. I've searched with this image, which I should say is about a 10-year-old image of me, and it's decided to then give the definition for a senior citizen in the Cambridge English Dictionary and the very definition of old age on Wikipedia, and then has lots of balding middle-aged men at the bottom of the page, which I would suggest is not very accurate. My wife thought this was hilarious and was pretty accurate. So things have hopefully kind of improved from there. And then what we started to see is obviously ChatGPT came to the forefront. But bear in mind that ChatGPT is the interface for GPT. So it actually existed for a bit longer than since we've had kind of access to it from a chat point of view. But what we're going to talk about today is that there's certainly an art to prompting and getting the most out of these tools. So you can see there's a prompt that says, please ignore all previous instructions, because otherwise it's going to continue the previous conversation I've had. Please respond only in the English language. You may have seen that ChatGPT started speaking Spanglish. It was like a real mix of Spanish and English last week. And for about 6 hours, it made absolutely no sense at all. So they had to fix that. I then got it to role play. You're an expert copywriter that speaks and writes in fluent English. Don't self-reference, because there's a real habit of doing that. And don't explain what you're doing as you're doing it, because otherwise it will. Then write a witty before, after bridge. So I've given it a writing structure, marketing campaign for, and I've given it a topic, whatever that topic might be. So by just that very basic set of instructions, I'm going to get slightly better quality results in a particular structure. So I'm going to show you how you can teach it to use your tone of voice of your organization. So you can train it so it completes content that's exactly as it should be for your organization. We'll look at how we can use it for improving efficiencies, but we're also going to look at the potential risks of some of these things. So I'll come back to this idea of the art of prompting in just a moment. Now, what that's led to is huge volumes of content. More and more blog posts being published, more automatic emails going out. And actually what we'll look at in a moment is the amount of video content that's starting to be produced as well. So there's some brand new technology over the last couple of weeks, particularly something called Google Lumiere and OpenAI Sora, which generate incredibly realistic videos as well, which is going to, again, disrupt other industries like some parts of the media industry. So what we're seeing is the technology is moving at pace and it's leading to disruption in lots and lots of industries. Now, that can feel really overwhelming. Like, how on earth do you stay up to date with this? But bear in mind, you don't need to know everything. We just need to know a little bit more than our competitors. So there's a cultural piece with this, which is this culture of learning piece. How do we make sure we embed that into our organization? So constantly exposing our teams to these things and then experimenting with how they might be used. And I was at a conference recently and Google were doing a presentation and someone very angrily stood up, and this was a marketing specific thing. And they said, it's not fair. We're now competing against AIs. And Google's response was, you're not. You're competing with people that are using AIs. And if you're not doing so, you are at a competitive disadvantage. So we need to look at how we can adopt these technologies. I'll just give you an example of some ethical questions and some disruption questions. So this is a tool called Jasper. Jasper is a writing tool. And I remember doing a podcast interview about 1.5 years ago. And it was a guy called Nicholas Holland, who's the VP for product for HubSpot. And he said, oh, there's this new thing out called GPT. You should take a look at it. And I've got the piece of paper in the bottom corner. It's got GPT ? Written down. And obviously the 1.5 years since then, things went crazy. But Jasper was one of the first tools to use GPT. And it was a writing interface that sat on top of it. Lots of writing frameworks. It could learn my tone of voice and so on. And it would help me to write. It did some brilliant things. Top right-hand corner, I've got a plagiarism button. So I can text some text, hit that button. It will check if that text it's created exists anywhere online already. So I can do that. And then next to it is another button where I can select my text, hit rewrite, and it will rewrite it in a way that's indistinguishable from the original. That immediately opens up some ethical questions. What about, I just keep an eye on my competitors, see what they're writing about, copy their blog post, put it in here, hit rewrite, publish it. Now, we've done a fair bit of research at Imperial College to say, can you use AI to detect AI created content? And the answer is you can't. The better the AI's got, the harder it is to detect. So, when my students hand in a piece of work, do I think that they've written it? Have they used these kind of tools? The reality is we're now setting assignments that allow you to do this and go, yeah, embrace it. It's a tool. We're using it in industry. You should use it for your assignments. What's really important is the thinking and the structure and those kind of things behind it. Now, this is a tool that was riding high, doing very well. And it was $100 per month per person. And lots of organizations were using it. Suddenly, the new version of ChatGPT comes out and pretty much makes this obsolete because it can learn your tone of voice. You can do all the kind of things you could do here, but you could do it with the thing that costs $20 a month. So we're seeing lots of disruption in the market. And I wanted to show you how quickly this is kind of moving. I'm just going to stop and reshare my screen so you've got my audio. So just bear with me for 1 second while I switch that on. Yeah, that's sharing okay now. Okay, so this is 11 Labs. 11 Labs will synthesize human speech. So I can essentially go through and write something, and it will say it in a huge range of AI voices. I can, in fact, design my own AI voice. So I can select region accents, male, female, age, all those kind of things. And it will give me different voices. So what we've done is train it on my voice. And what we now publish is every 2 weeks, we publish a little news update that you can see on the website here. But a lot of people like to listen to it instead. So what we've done is embed in a little audio player. And if I hit play, and you've heard my voice for a few minutes now, you're kind of used to it.
Host of the Digital Marketing Podcast, and I'll be guiding you through the latest news. TweetDeck is back as X Pro. TweetDeck, the tool that allowed you to manage multiple streams of Twitter conversations and so.
That's not me. That's AI me. And it's pretty much indistinguishable. There's a few things. I think it's better. It's clearer than me in some cases. But otherwise, it's pretty indistinguishable. So I don't need to record that stuff anymore. I can just type it into 11 Labs. So that's great. But what it also means is that you can't trust anything you hear anymore. Because if I've got 10 minutes of your voice, I can deep fake you. So what does that mean for politics? What does that mean for media? What does that mean for all sorts of things? We need to think about that. We need to have a position on it. We need to have a policy. Is it okay to do that without telling my audience it's virtual me rather than real me? So we need to make some decisions and start looking at this and then revisit those policies on a really regular basis, which I'll come back to later. This is another example. This is a tool called Descript. It's for editing podcasts and videos. Very clever. You upload your audio, your video, and it will transcribe it for you. And then you can edit the audio, the video by rearranging the text, and it'll actually edit the audio, the video for you. But how about I'm trying to record something and I'm looking into the camera like I am now, and I'm recording a script, but I've got my script written over here. So I keep looking away from it. It's not a good look on a video recording. So what I've got here is Descript in action, and I'll play the video. So my apologies. When I recorded this, I was in a hotel. I'm a little bit croaky, but I've done it the first time. The second time is with the little AI switch on that's going to correct where I'm looking. So you'll watch this and then I'll show you. So let's just play this.
Hi there, I'm Daniel Rolls. Currently, I am looking into the camera. Now I'm looking off to the side of the camera as if I'm reading from notes. And now I'm looking back into the camera. So let's see how the AI does with that. Hi there, I'm Daniel Rolls. Currently, I am looking into the camera. Now I'm looking off to the side of the camera as if I'm reading from notes. And now I'm looking back into the camera. So let's see how the AI does.
So let's just compare. So this is the me looking off. And then if I go to the same word on the AI corrected version, there you go. I'm looking straight into the camera. So that's one switch and it does it automatically. So we're just seeing these tools in more and more places. But ethically, is that okay? We do some interviews with people and we want to see them eye to eye on a Zoom call and test their knowledge on something. The reality is they could very easily be reading a script and running a real-time filter on it, so it looks like they're looking into the camera now as well. So we'll come back to some of these things. So let's get into the latest AI news. What's changing? What's happening? First of all, we had ChatGPT. That was the kind of lead tool. Suddenly, Google have launched Gemini, and that replaces Bard. So Google Bard has now been replaced by Gemini, and it's the kind of AI engine that sits behind it. The difference being it is multimodal. What does that mean? Well, it's designed from the outset to do text, but also audio, video, images, all those sorts of things as well. So you can give it a video, it will tell you what's going on in the video. You can ask it questions about things that might be audio, etc., which is not how ChatGPT was built. So it should have a lot of advantage. The reality is they haven't rolled out most of that stuff yet. So you'll hear lots of these announcements and you see like this online video. Most of that is not available to most of us yet. It's available to developers and testers and things like that. Now, when you look through the stats and they say it's better than GPT-4, the latest version of ChatGPT, and you've got all these numbers for different tests, and it says here, MMLU, representation of questions and 57 different subjects. We're much better than ChatGPT. The one that should worry us is the one a little bit further down called HelloSwag. What on earth is that? It's a tense for common sense reasoning, test for common, and actually it's way behind where ChatGPT is. So it's a mixed bag at the moment. And that's one of the things. There's going to be lots of different tools available to us. We're going to need to work out which ones are good for the particular tasks that we need to be doing and carrying out and so on. So it means that constantly educating, constantly getting in and kind of playing with these tools is going to be important for our teams. And it's going to be really important to kind of stay on top of this over a period of time. Now, from a video point of view, what I'd get you to have a look at afterwards is you've got Sora from OpenAI, and it's creating these incredibly photorealistic videos. So let's jump out to my browser and just kind of show you this as well. So if I go through to Sora, you're going to see a load of examples, and they keep adding more examples to this as well. Okay, it's going to get blocked, I think, by the firewall, but go through. There's a whole load of videos. If you just search SORA, you can see it on YouTube and so on as well. They are very, very hard to detect from the original. And they're going to be rolling this out to all of us very, very soon. The other one to take a look at is Lumiere from Google. And I'll show you some examples here. So these are little videos that have been created by just small text prompts. You've got upload an image, and then it will turn it into a video for you. Stylized generation, very, very interesting. You give it some branded imagery, and it will create other images in that style. So again, most of the tools are very bad at doing this at the moment, but this will be rolling out very soon. And then the one that you're going to see everywhere, just down here, is I can take an original source video, and then I can, for example, dress that source video in different clothing. So the next time you go to an e-commerce store, you'll upload a video clip of yourself, and you'll better try the clothes on virtually, and it will show a video of you wearing those clothes and how they move and those sorts of things as well. So we're seeing great leaps forward in these technologies. So go take a look at some of those Sora videos and Lumiere videos, and it's quite interesting to take a look at what they're doing. So let's just get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of what's going on with ChatGPT, for example. So it used to be, it was trained on data up until April 2021, and it didn't know anything that had happened until after that. Well, that's now changed. It's update until April 2023, and they're now starting to update it. So it will know things that happened 12 months ago, and very soon it will be last month. They'll update it on almost a monthly basis. It used to be that you could get it to generate an image or to write some text, or if you used a plugin to go and look up something on a website. Well, now all of that capability is built into one thing. So I can say, go and look up my blog post, write me 3 LinkedIn posts, 2 Instagram posts, and generate an image for each of those posts, and it will do that automatically. Even better, if I tell it my tone of voice and my image styling, it will do it in a way that is much more specific to me as well. Now, a very, very latest bit of news that was updated a few days ago. At the moment, you've got plugins listed on here. Plugins are disappearing. And they were things that allowed you to connect to external tools. The reason they're disappearing is you've now got something called custom GPTs, which is where there's a huge element of opportunity for all of us. So I'll show you those in just a second. DALL-E, their image generation tool, has come on leaps and bounds as well. There are lots of other image generation tools, obviously, as well, like Midjourney and a few others. But now what it can do is add text over the top of images. So I've got 2 beagles called Eddie and Walter. So I've done a little children's book cover here called The Adventures of Eddie and Walter. And you can see it's come up with some pretty convincing children's books covers. One thing you will notice, though, we'll talk about this in a moment, is like hallucinations when it starts making things up. Well, it's misspelled Eddie in this top left-hand one. It's added an extra I. So there's still a great level of care needed when you create anything to make sure it makes sense, to make sure it's not done anything strange. The bottom left book cover, you probably can't see it from there, but it's got these very strange little tiny beagles in the background crawling around the page, which is slightly peculiar as well. So not always perfect, but moving very, very quickly as well. Probably one of the greatest opportunities here is actually with the data analysis side of things. So now you can upload a data set and it will visualize and analyze it for you. And it's stuff that we were teaching our master students to do. Actually, it can do for you out of the box. So we work with UKCEH, which is the UK Ecology and Hydrology Association. It's a load of academics publishing data about biodiversity and carbon footprints and things like that. And it's pretty impenetrable data. Well, actually, now I can bring that up and visualize it really, really easily. So imagine you've got a load of customer data and you want to predict the chance of a customer churning. It will create predictive models for you really, really easily. It will do regression modeling, visualization, and you don't need to be an expert. I've literally gone in here and said, please analyze and visualize this zip file. It unzips it, takes the data out, tries to work out what the data is, and then it's plotted out the 3D distribution of ash trees per kilometer across the UK, fairly niche, onto this kind of 3D chart as well. So I can, for example, download every tweet I've ever written, and I can ask it, what's the best type of tweets? What's the best time of day? And it tells me behind the scenes, 1:08 p.m. So it will give me really precise results in terms of what stuff works and what doesn't. So good opportunity there. Probably the best opportunity is custom GPTs. This is basically allows you to go through and train the GPT to do a specific task. So I've created one for writing articles. So it knows my tone. I trained it in my tone of voice. I've given it a bit description of that. And it's very bad normally at writing long articles. So I say, right, start off, I'll give you a subject, give me 5 suggested titles to that article, then go through and bullet point what it's going to look like. And I go, yep, that's a good bullet point, start writing. And then it will just go through and write section by section. And after each section, it will ask me, is this okay? Would you like me to expand it? What do you want me to do differently? And I end up with like a 3,000 or 4,000 word article that probably takes me 1/10 of the time it would have done before. And it knows my tone of voice, so it's done it in my tone of voice. Now, the reality is I need to know the subject matter to be able to do that. You still need that level of expertise, but it's given me a great level of efficiency and it's specific to my task. The other thing is you can connect these to external tools. So you could look things up from your customer relationship management system. You could bring web analytics data in and so on as well. And there are thousands of existing custom GPTs that you can use that other people have created for doing a whole host of different tasks as well. There will soon be a GPT store where you can buy an app. You'll be able to buy all these custom GPTs for doing various tasks as well. So if you haven't had a look at it, it's worth taking a look at as well. There's some great stuff in there you can play with. So for example, this one, I give it a screenshot and it writes the HTML code for me for that screenshot. So I've just grabbed one of my competitors' websites here and it's laid out their website in minutes as well. So say you come up with an idea for something, sketch it out on a piece of paper, take a photo, upload it, it will do the HTML coding for you so you can make an interactive prototype. So coming up with ideas and prototyping them just got easier, no developer involved. I can build out a mock-up of a website super easily. If I can sketch something and take a photo of it, I can build it. So lots of new opportunities with that. So let's talk about how you get the most out of these tools, and then I'll do a bit of future gazing as well. So the R prompt, and I showed you that particular prompt. Where that comes from is this great little plugin for Google Chrome. And this is something called Keywords Everywhere. It's free. And I'll distribute a document afterwards that have got all of these tools in them so you can access that. But I've gone in here and said, okay, I've got some drop downs. Category, I've selected social media, subcategory LinkedIn, template LinkedIn connector message, English language, informative tone of voice, descriptive writing style, put a name in, sudden length, title and company, and it will write a really good prompt for me. And it's got thousands of different templates. And it's a really good starting point if you want to get more out of these tools, because you just install it into Google Chrome. When you go into ChatGPT, there'll be a little Keywords Everywhere button. You click on it and it will give you these drop downs. You select it all and it will give you a prompt that's going to get you much, much better results than if you just wrote, write me a LinkedIn introduction. So have a little play with that and it will give you loads of really, really great templates. What I've done here is I've given it a load of my writing in a PDF. And I said, analyze the writing style of this book in this particular case and write a detailed description that describes this writing style that I can use in future prompts. So I've basically got it to write a part of a prompt for me. And it says the writing style is practical and strategically focused, suitable professionals and students in the field of marketing, branding, communications. It's informative, detailed, offering step. You kind of get the idea. It's a really lovely, detailed thing. Then whenever I write anything else, I'm going to put that in, use this tone of voice, and it will write in my style. and it won't use superfluous words, and it won't use kind of do writing that's not up to much. So what you can do is take 5 of the articles or something your team have written before, put them into a PDF, give it that, and say, give me a prompt for this writing style, and then everything you write going forwards is going to be in that correct writing style and tone of your organization as well. You could do this for emails, but give it 50 of your emails, and it will learn your writing style, and it will draft the emails for you in your tone of voice as well. Obviously, if you're a very angry email writer, that's a bad idea. But you can play around with that. Now, workflow, I can go and look at what my competitors are doing. I can understand the stuff they're publishing, and maybe I want to create content on that. This is an amazing tool called competitors.app. And you put your competitors in. I put 3 of mine in here, and it's monitoring every change they make to their website, every email they publish, every social media post they're writing, and summarizes it for me. So I can dip in and go, oh, they're doing loads of stuff on this. Maybe my team should be writing some stuff on that. Maybe I should point the team in this particular direction. We mentioned this in the podcast, and they got loads of sales. They've given us a coupon off. So if you want it for 3 months, I think you get 50% off or something as well. But yeah, we've got no commercial connection, by the way. But we use this all the time just to keep an eye on our competitors, and then workflow, right, point the team in that direction. Maybe they're going to create some content, get it out to market really quickly. Now, one thing with this, you wouldn't go up to a coworker or someone that works for you in the hallway of your organization and go, I want you to do this, 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 and this, follow it by this, and then do that. They're just going to forget, and it will make an absolute muddle. So build your prompts cumulatively. Start doing something, work out what it does right and does wrong, and then start from fresh. And then put your whole prompt in so it doesn't go back to what you were doing before. And then when you get something that works, save it and build a repository of prompts that you're going to be able to reuse. And that's a really good kind of process to go through. The other thing is, ask the AIs to improve your prompts. So I've said, please generate an image of a digital marketing training course in this particular case. And then I've asked ChatGPT, how could I improve it? And it says, well, you could give me a specific setting description. You could talk to me about diversity, visual elements, the instructor's role, any visual aids and decor for the room. And it will give me a much more detailed prompt. So yeah, don't be afraid of asking the AIs to help you improve your prompts, which is all a bit meta when AI starts prompting itself, but we won't worry about that too much for now. Now, the thing we do get are hallucinations. So this is a classic example. Words that are similar to devolve that begin with a B. So the word that's similar to devolve begins with a B is backslide. This term often implies a return to a less advanced state. Okay. And I go more. Here's another word that's similar to devolve that begins with B is degrade. Pretty sure that degrade doesn't start with B. One of the problems that you're going to have is that these AIs work on tokens. A word is a token, which means splitting words up, it's really bad at. So they kind of get things wrong. This was my kind of favorite. This was a quiz from GZHQ. And I looked at this. It said, fill in the gap. Snake, penguin, dog, ant, crab. And I thought, I haven't got a clue. So I asked ChatGPT, what's the answer? And it said, well, looks like the missing word's elephant. And I still didn't understand. I said, why? I said, well, the sequence appears to be listing animals in alphabetical order, with alphabetical order going from S for snake, C to crab, E to elephant. Makes no sense whatsoever. It's kind of made this up. It's hallucinating. For those that are interested, by the way, the correct answer is actually spider. It's based on the number of legs that the animal's got. So it goes 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So there you go. If you learned nothing else today, you learned the answer to that quiz. So let's just kind of, just for a few minutes, just talk about the future of this stuff as well. So I already said you can't believe anything that you hear anymore because the fact that we can deep fake a voice. Well, this is some work that Facebook Meta have been doing. Now, when they started talking about the metaverse and you've got these kind of cartoony avatars, you might look and think, why? Well, this is what they're really working on. So let me just play you this little video.
All you need for the scan is your phone, and you can pretty much do this anywhere with reasonable lighting. She scans her face from different angles with a neutral expression for about 30 seconds, then spends another minute and a half making a variety of expressions. That's really all there is to it.
Hi guys, my 3D avatar is ready for use in my phone or VR. It just took a few hours to generate after my scan, and the team's working on making that processing a whole lot faster. Now, obviously, this isn't the same quality as you just saw with the 2.0 codec avatars. However, they're still pretty expressive and realistic. We're putting a whole lot of effort into developing these so anyone can easily create their own high-quality, realistic avatar for themselves.
I'm pretty sure if I was on a Zoom call and that popped up, I wouldn't, unless someone had told me, I probably wouldn't recognize it was an avatar. So, and this is about 18 months old. They've been doing a lot of development since then we haven't seen as well. So you can't believe anything you hear. You very soon won't be able to believe anything you see. And then we've got this kind of stuff. So, you've got the Vision Pro, which is the new headset from Apple, which is an augmented reality. So it can overlay things on top of what you see. Well, think about that. It's not a huge thing. It's reasonably heavy, but it's quite a small, lightweight bit of kit. Think about what mobile phones were like at the beginning. Big, chunky things that kind of got in the way. This is a prototype product called Mojo, and it's an augmented reality contact lens. So it sits in your eye, you have a little transceiver, and it can overlay things on top of what you're seeing. Now, what you can't see from this, it bulges out quite a lot. The original version was 5mm thick, so you couldn't actually close your eyes, which is quite unpleasant. The second prototype, you had to have a cable coming out of each eye to power it, which is particularly disgusting. This has got a battery in it, so I don't know how you feel about putting a battery in your eye. But there was a thing at Mobile World Congress, and the guy comes out to present it, and they were working in partnership with Samsung. And in slightly broken English, the guy was presenting, and everyone was listening really intently. And he came onto the stage and said, imagine you have a pet cat. Everyone looked very confused, but you wish that you had a pet dog. When you look at your cat, it will look like a dog. Now, you don't have to extrapolate very far that my wife won't be looking at this for much longer. There'll be Brad Pitt or someone else walking around the house. But what does it mean when you can change what things look like? What does it mean when you can change what you look like to other people? I mean, I've got an ad blocker in my browser. I could have a colleague blocker if I've got a particularly annoying colleague. So this sounds ridiculous and science fiction-y, but it's a kind of natural evolution of the direction the technology is going in. This is a prototype. 10 years, this is for sure to be a thing. So we are in an environment where things will get disrupted more and more quickly. And as leaders and as people that are managing teams and so on, the reality is we need to have a view and we need to embrace this and we need to kind of work with this. So what can you do with it all? Well, I was asked the House of Commons about 4 months ago to brief on what they should do about AI regulation. And the answer is, it's not really AI the problem, it's the lack of investment into development and knowledge about these things. So it's brilliant we're all here together today talking about these kind of topics. We need to be doing that constantly. If I go back to my previous point, which is you don't need to know everything, you just need to be that little bit better than your competitors. So it's try the tools out, experiment, create a policy that says what you will do and what you won't do, and then iterate. And that's key, is really kind of creating that learning culture. We do something called the Digital Skills Benchmark, and we've sampled about 10,000 people's skills. And what you'll see is the outer edges, it's 14 topics in this particular one, analytics, strategy, those kind of things. Outer edges is perfect. That's where people are, 2021 to 2023. Not much progress, huge gaps in knowledge, which is fine. We just need to be slightly better than the other people in our particular industry. Red on the right-hand side shows where confidence is. We think we're great at content. We think we're great at measuring it. We think we're really good at doing social media. That is why there's so much bad content, bad social media, and we're not measuring it and improving it. So we find ourselves in a situation where actually, if we embrace this kind of learning culture, we've then got the opportunity to go through and keep improving. And I would say that because I run a company that does this stuff. But the point being is that there's different ways of learning. It's about sessions like this. It's about, groups of us getting together. It's about listening to podcasts, whatever else it might be, to try and really to kind of help our organizations embrace these things. So I want to leave you with some resources. Any questions, feel free to email me afterwards. If you need any help upskilling your teams, then that's what we do. If you would like to benchmark your team for free, go to targetinternet.com, or just yourself, by the way, targetinternet.com/skills, and you can benchmark and then see how you line up against your industry, because you can do it industry by industry. It takes about 25 minutes per person to do it. It's all automated. So you go in, sign up, and then you give a little link to your team and they can do that. We do a podcast on these topics weekly, no ads in that whatsoever. So you can go through to that. And then we do lots of live sessions every month as well, if you're a newsletter subscriber. So you've got the newsletter on there as well. Thank you so much for listening to me for the last kind of 35, 40 minutes or so. And we've got about a few minutes left for questions, I believe.
Thank you, Daniel. We do. A huge thank you. I think the term shock and awe, certainly for me, when it comes to that, which you just shared with us, is highly relevant. Hugely fascinating, interesting, slightly worrying perhaps as well. But that was brilliant. So thank you. Yes, we do have some questions. I'm going to lead off, I think, with our first one here. So how can we stay up to date with all these changes in AI and AI tools?
The reality is it's happening so thick and fast. it's a real challenge to stay on top of it. What I would say is, first of all, you don't have to stay 100% on top of it. There's lots of stuff that's new that won't last or isn't really living up to the expectation. So what we need to do is find some kind of trusted sources for our particular industry. And I generally find that there's some really good people on LinkedIn to follow, but actually podcasts and things like that are a nice format because you can listen to in the background when you're doing something else. So if you're, digital marketing, comms, anything like that, then that podcast we've got on the screen there will kind of help. But I think it's finding someone in your industry that's doing the work for you to some extent and is constantly posting about these things on LinkedIn. Just keep an eye on those things, I think, and just find your sources that are kind of relevant. I'll share some resources afterwards that I've got the ones that I follow on Twitter and LinkedIn, and they may be useful to some of those people as well. But don't feel like you need to embrace everything. It's really about selectively revisiting this on a regular basis.
Brilliant. Thank you. I've got another one. Are there underused techniques that organizations, I suppose individuals, can use to give competitive advantage?
Yeah, so I think there's things like training it on your tone of voice. Most people haven't played around with that. I think the custom GPTs is where the opportunity is at the moment, that you can look at all the things you do as an organization or your team's doing, and then go, which bits of that could we speed up? Which bits of it could we kind of semi-automate, assist in doing it, and then create a GPT to do it? Now, what's just happened is they've released a team version, and that team version is $25 a month instead of $20, but it gives you loads of privacy kind of settings, so you can make sure the AI is not being trained on your data, but it allows you to create custom GPTs, but then to share them amongst your team. So imagine you create one that writes really well in your tone of voice, just give your team that, and whenever they write anything, they can use it to speed up that process. So I think looking at that's kind of underutilized at the moment, and there's a bit of a first lead advantage of getting a bit of efficiency from that at the moment.
And I've got a question here, Daniel. If you had to pay for an AI tool, so either Gemini or ChatGPT, which one would you go for?
Today, at this moment, I'd go ChatGPT team for the $25 a month. That gives you image generation, looking things up and so on. Gemini is very limited to text at the moment. In the EU and the UK, you can't even do image generation at the moment. But that will change. My feeling is in 6 months, we might be having a different conversation because the multimodal that does images and video and audio version of Gemini would have come out, and therefore we might be having a different conversation. So I would go down ChatGPT at the moment because it offers you good value for what it's doing. But yeah, keep an eye. The other one is if you're doing image generation, take a look at Midjourney. A lot of people have put off Midjourney because you have to interact with it via a chat kind of interaction on Discord. But once you get your head around it, it's phenomenally powerful. But also, the lovely thing is you can see everything that everyone else is generating, and you can read their prompt. You can see what it created, and you can learn from that as well. So from a learning experience, it's really interesting. So if anyone were to search Midjourney Discord, they would find it. And even if you're not paid up for it, you can see what other people are doing, and it's really fascinating.
Brilliant.
Super. Another question. Looking to your crystal ball, Daniel, how do you think work in media companies like publishing will be impacted by AI?
Well, it's interesting because forever we've said that, publishing is going to be disrupted by digital, and it was quite slow to adopt to it. The reality is I've just done I've done like a 4th edition of one of my books, and it was the first one I've done using AI. And I haven't written the whole thing of AI, but it's helped me to kind of write it. I should probably know. I should told my publisher this first. But the reality is that it just made the process easier. So I think it will enhance our ability to write things, keep it up to date. I think that there's a bit of a risk, but if you pump out rubbish content, Google can work it out. So Google are looking at EAT a fair bit, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. And it's basically saying, yes, you can write something, but have you got examples? Have you got demonstrations of your experience? Can you demonstrate your authoritativeness? So actually, that real world context makes a big difference. From a media point of view, what's interesting to me is everyone keeps saying, well, all it can do at the moment is generate, 1-minute videos. If you look at any movie, most of the sequences in that movie will be 8 seconds or less in many cases. It's like scene cut, scene cut, scene cut, scene cut constantly. When you actually start watching it, you notice there's so many cuts. It might be one that's a few minutes long. There's a monologue or something. But the reality is that actually, if you can train the AI in a particular phase and just do sequence after sequence, you can generate movies. So I think we're just going to see new formats. And we're going to see lots of people be able to create things that couldn't before as well. So it will cause disruption. But actually, I still read books. I still read magazines in a digital format. I still watch news and things like that. So we need to look at it. The problem is different groups of people do things differently. If I ask my students who are all master students, all 21 years old, where do you get your news from? Something like 85% of them are getting their news from social media. Now, one, I find that slightly terrifying. How do they know what's fake, what's not, and that kind of thing? The algorithm's feeding them stuff that they want more of, so it creates a bit of an echo chamber. But they're not going to news websites. They're certainly not reading newspapers, even in their digital format anymore. So as organizations, we're going to need to adopt that. And we don't own the social channels. We have no control over those algorithms. So it's finding out how we get that direct route to our target audiences and maybe trying to think about those things. But just like anything else, we need to take a viewpoint now so that we're kind of keeping up to step with it and look at how that evolves. So at the very least, is be engaged with it to see how we can move it forwards.
Perfect. I think we've got time for a couple more, possibly. There's one here. They're interested in hearing your thoughts on the ethical use of AI.
So, a couple of things. Is it okay to plagiarize other people's stuff? No, but it's very, very easy to do. Is it okay to take an image of someone else and change it so it's undetectable? No. What we need, there's lots of ethical questions. Is it okay to deep fake myself? Do I have to tell you that I've deep faked myself? What about if we need to make a public statement? Our CEO is on a flight to Japan and we need them to make a statement quickly. Can we just do a deep fake of it quickly? So there's going to be thousands of ethical questions that come out, and there is no regulation, from that point of view. So as industry leaders, as organizational leaders, we need to set out what our policies are, and ethics come at the kind of front of that as well. And there's the quote from Professor Celia Moore at Imperial College, and said, in these situations, we need to lean into our humanity, i.e. what makes us human? How do we differentiate what we're doing via that? And therefore, if we lean into those things, that's the opportunity to do something to stand out, really. So like today, like the fact we're doing this interactive Q&A and we can react and so on, that's what adds the kind of benefit to it as well. If it was just me doing a presentation, you probably don't really care if it's an AI version of my voice in the background or it's a recording of me. It's probably pretty much the same thing. So we need to think about that, but we do need to ask ourselves questions about AI, but we should have been doing this about social media a long time ago. And we didn't as much as we probably should have been. And actually, if you look at lots and lots of the research that shows the harm to teenagers from social media usage and so on as well, we didn't at that point say we need to educate ourselves. We need a culture of learning. We need to get our team up to skills, up to speed, and therefore we can start making some sensible conversations and creating some policies about these things, what we will do and what we won't do. And I think we've just got to see it from that iterative point of view, that no one is going to tell us what the rules are beyond a certain limit. We're actually going to have to keep setting those for ourselves. And that will help to our brand, because our brand, by going through and saying, this is what we do and don't do, it helps reinforce those brand values and that whole kind of tone of voice piece as well. So there's an opportunity with that as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. Daniel, do we have time for one more, or are you...
No, let's go for one more. That's great. We've got time.
Let's link it back to the human. So great question here. I work within learning development in a company with diverse levels of technological capability. And how can we help people to not be left behind if they're reluctant to engage or connect with this?
Yeah, so I think there is this real thing of like, this isn't for me, it feels overwhelming. And I think that point I made about you don't need to know everything, you just need to be slightly better. I think that's a really good framing for this stuff. And I also think that the point with Google saying, oh, I'm competing against AIs, you're not. You're competing against people that are using it. And if you don't, you are at a competitive disadvantage. Therefore, it is existential for organizations and for people's job roles, potentially, if they don't embrace this stuff. So there's a bit of carrot and a bit of stick, hopefully, that you can use in there to try and take people on the journey. But they do have to go on the journey. The world around them is changing. How we communicate is changing, everything else. So the reality is that, yes, we need to go through and do that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Look, a huge thank you from Wendy and myself. That was excellent. Sorry, Wendy, I'll pass over to you now.
Yeah, really insightful. Thank you so much. I think I've learned a huge amount. So hopefully everyone on this call has also. As you said, Daniel, if people want to reach out to you with questions, if we didn't get through all the questions today, so if there's anything that they want to ask you directly, then that's absolutely fine. We will put the recording on cartamurray.com and also fraserjones.com. So they'll be able to have a rerun of all the good information. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone on this webinar today, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks for having me, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate it, Wendy. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.